The river ran quiet that afternoon like it was keeping a secret. The rancher had been riding since sunrise, dust clinging to his boots and the slow heat of the land pressing against his shoulders. Out here, the world stretched wide and empty, broken only by scrub brush, stone, and the thin ribbon of water cutting through it all. He knew this stretch well. Knew where the ground dipped, where the cattle liked to wander, where a man could ride for hours and not see another soul. That was why he stopped so suddenly when he spotted her. She stood at the edge of the river, still as a carved figure, her horse bent low to drink from the clear current. The animal's reins hung loose in her hand, and the sunlight caught the small details of her clothing, the careful stitching, the fringe that moved softly in the breeze. She did not look lost. She did not look afraid. She looked like she belonged there more than the land itself. The rancher tightened his grip on the reins of his own horse. His first thought was simple. No one comes out here alone. He shifted in the saddle, watching her from across the water. His horse snorted softly, sensing something different in the air. The rancher calmed it with a quiet touch, but his eyes never left the girl. She had not moved, not even when he arrived. Not even when the sound of hooves carried across the riverbed. That was when it struck him. She knew he was there. A faint unease crept into his chest. He had seen many things out on the range. Storms that came out of nowhere. Tracks that led nowhere. People who said things they should not know. But something about this moment felt heavier than all of that, like the air itself had turned thick. He swung down from his horse slowly, boots crunching against the dry ground. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Still, she did not turn. "Afternoon," he called, his voice steady but careful. The girl did not answer right away. The river kept moving between them, soft and endless, as if time had slowed just enough to notice it. Then, after a long pause, she lifted her head slightly, though she did not face him fully. Her voice came quiet but clear enough to carry. "You should not be here." The rancher frowned, taken off guard by the calm certainty in her tone. It was not a warning shouted in fear. It was not a threat. It sounded more like a simple truth, like saying the sun would set or the wind would rise. "I ride this land every day," he replied. "Don't reckon there's a place here I shouldn't be." That was when she turned. Her eyes met his across the river, and for a moment everything else seemed to fall away. The dry hills, the scattered trees, even the sound of the water. There was something in her gaze that held steady, something that did not belong to someone her age. It made the rancher feel as if he had stepped into a story he did not know the ending to. "You've already crossed it," she said. The words hung there, strange and unfinished. He glanced down at the ground beneath his boots, then back at her. "Crossed what?" The girl looked toward the river again, her horse lifting its head slightly, water dripping from its muzzle. The breeze shifted, carrying a faint chill that had not been there before. "The line," she said softly. "It moves, but it never forgets." The rancher felt a tightness in his chest now. He had heard talk before, old stories passed between men who spent too many nights under open skies. Stories about places where things were not what they seemed. He had never paid them much mind until now. "You talking in riddles?" he asked, though his voice had lost some of its firmness. She shook her head once. "No," she said. "I'm telling you the truth." The river seemed louder suddenly, the current pressing harder against its banks. The rancher took a step closer to the edge, his boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. His horse behind him shifted nervously. "What happens if I stay?" he asked. The girl did not answer right away. She watched him, her expression unreadable, as if weighing something he could not see. Then she spoke again, quieter this time. "You already did?" A cold feeling ran through him then, sharp and sudden. The kind that made a man realize too late that he had missed something important. "What does that mean?" he demanded. But the girl only turned back to the river, her hand resting lightly on her horse. The wind picked up, rustling through the dry brush, carrying with it a sound that almost felt like distant voices. And just as the rancher stepped forward to press her for answers, the water at his feet shifted in a way that should not have been possible, as if something beneath the surface had begun to rise. The water did not break like it should have. It did not splash or ripple in a natural way. It lifted, slow and heavy, like something underneath was pushing it up with quiet force. The rancher froze where he stood, his breath caught halfway in his chest. He had seen rivers flood and dry, had watched storms turn calm streams into roaring walls, but this was different. This felt wrong. The surface bent upward in a smooth curve, and for a second, he could see the reflection of the sky stretch and twist like it was made of glass. Behind him, his horse let out a low, uneasy sound and stepped back. The reins dragged lightly against the ground. The rancher did not turn. His eyes stayed fixed on the water. "What is that?" he said, though he was not sure he wanted an answer. The girl did not look surprised. She stood steady, her hand resting on her horse's neck, her gaze following the rise in the river like she had seen it before. "I told you," she said. "You crossed it." The rancher swallowed, forcing himself to move, even if it was just one step back from the edge. The moment his boot shifted, the water dropped again, settling into its usual flow as if nothing had happened. The sound returned to normal, soft and steady, like it had been all along. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The rancher finally let out a breath and rubbed a hand over his face. "That ain't something a man just ignores," he muttered. "You're going to tell me what's going on." The girl turned her head slightly, studying him. There was no fear in her eyes, only a kind of quiet patience, like she had been waiting for this moment. "You've ridden this land a long time," she said. "Long enough," he replied. "Then you know it changes?" He gave a small nod. "Seasons do, weather does, that's nothing new." She shook her head gently. "Not like this?" The rancher frowned. He stepped a little closer again, careful this time, watching both her and the river. "Start talking plain," he said. "I don't have patience for guessing games." The girl looked down at the ground between them, then out toward the hills beyond. The sun was still high, but the light felt different now, dimmer somehow, like a thin cloud had passed in front of it even though the sky remained clear. "There are places," she said slowly, "where the land remembers things it should have let go." The rancher let out a short breath. "Land don't remember." "People do." She met his eyes again. "You believe that?" He hesitated just for a moment. Out here, a man learned not to dismiss everything too quickly. Still, he held his ground. "I believe what I can see. That's why you're in trouble," she said. Something in her voice made him shift his weight again. Not fear, not exactly, but something close enough to make his chest tighten. "I've heard stories," he admitted after a moment. "Old ones?" "Men talking around fires, saying there's lines out here you don't cross. Places where things don't act right. I always figured it was just talk." "It's not just talk," she said. The wind moved again, a little stronger this time, brushing through the trees along the river bank. The leaves gave off a dry whisper, like they were passing something along. The rancher glanced around, his eyes scanning the open land. It looked the same as always, rocks, brush, the slow bend of the river. But now it felt like there was something just out of sight, something waiting. "Why here?" he asked. "Why this river?" The girl rested both hands on the reins now, her fingers tightening slightly. "It's not just the river, it's everything around it. The hills, the ground, the path you rode in on. They all meet here?" He thought back to his ride that morning. The path had seemed normal. Maybe a little quieter than usual, but nothing worth noting at the time. "I didn't see anything," he said. "You wouldn't," she replied. "Not until it was too late." The rancher let out a low, frustrated breath. "You keep saying that. Too late for what?" The girl did not answer right away. She looked past him, toward his horse, which had turned its head away from the river, ears pinned back. "Your horse feels it," she said. He glanced back. The animal shifted again, restless, its muscles tight under its coat. "It's just spooked," he said, though he did not sound fully convinced. "It knows this place isn't right anymore," she said. The rancher turned back to her, his jaw set. "Then why are you here?" That question seemed to settle something in her. She straightened a little, her expression changing, becoming more serious. "I came to watch," she said. "Watch what?" "You." The word landed heavier than anything else she had said. "Me?" he repeated. "Why would anyone be watching me?" She held his gaze steady and unblinking. "Because you're not the first to cross." A silence followed that felt deeper than the open land around them. The rancher felt a slow, creeping unease build in his chest again. "And the others?" he asked quietly. "What happened to them?" The girl's grip on the reins tightened just a little more. "They stayed," she said. The river gave a sudden sharp sound then, like something striking against stone beneath the surface. The rancher's head snapped toward it. This time the water did not just rise. It began to pull, the current shifting direction for a brief second as if drawn toward a point he could not see. And in that strange movement he caught something in the reflection, not the sky. Not the trees? Something else. Something that looked like a shape standing where he knew there was nothing at all. The rancher leaned forward without thinking, his eyes fixed on the shifting reflection in the river. The shape wavered like heat rising off dry ground, not steady enough to name but too clear to ignore. It stood where the opposite bank should have been empty, tall, still, and wrong. He blinked hard once, then again. The shape did not disappear. "What am I looking at?" he said under his breath. The girl stepped closer to the edge of the water, but she did not look into it. Her eyes stayed on him, as if his reaction mattered more than what the river showed. "It sees you now," she said. A chill moved through him, slow and steady. "What sees me?" She did not answer that question. Instead, she asked one of her own. "When you rode in this morning, did anything feel different?" He opened his mouth to say no, but the word did not come right away. His mind drifted back over the ride, the same trail, the same stretch of open land, but there had been something. A quiet that pressed a little harder than usual. No birds cutting across the sky, no distant movement of cattle. Just wind and the sound of his horse. It was too still, he admitted. She gave a small nod. "That's how it starts." The rancher straightened, pulling his eyes away from the river at last. "You keep talking like this place is alive." "It is," she said simply. He shook his head, but there was no real force behind it. "Land don't watch a man ride in. This one does." The wind shifted again, stronger now, pushing against his back as if urging him away from the water. His horse pulled at the reins, trying to turn further from the riverbank. The rancher reached for the reins without looking, gripping them tight. "Easy," he murmured, though his own voice carried tension. He turned back to the girl. "You said I'm not the first. How many?" Her gaze drifted toward the hills like she was counting something far away. "Enough," she said. "That ain't an answer. It's the only one that matters." He let out a slow breath, trying to keep his thoughts steady. "And you've seen this happen before?" "Yes. And you just stand here and watch?" Her eyes returned to his, calm but firm. "Someone has to." The rancher studied her more closely now. She did not look like someone caught in fear or confusion. She looked like someone carrying a task, something she had accepted long before he arrived. "Who sent you?" he asked. "No one sent me," she said. "I come because I have to. That still sounds like someone sent you." She shook her head again, a little more sharply this time. "You don't understand yet." The rancher almost laughed, but the sound died before it could form. "You're right about that." The river shifted again, a low ripple moving across its surface. He could not stop himself from looking. The reflection twisted once more, and the shape seemed closer now. Not by distance, but by clarity. He could make out the outline of shoulders, the hint of a head, but it was not standing on the bank. It was standing in the water. His grip on the reins tightened. "That thing in there," he said slowly. "Those others you talked about." "Is that what they become?" The girl did not answer right away. That silence told him more than words could have. A heavy feeling settled in his chest. "That's not possible," he said, though it sounded more like a wish than a fact. "They don't leave," she said quietly. The rancher shook his head again, more forcefully this time. "There's always a way out. There's always a trail back. Not here." He took a step away from the river, then another, as if distance alone might clear his mind. "Then why am I still standing here? If crossing means I'm stuck, why hasn't anything happened yet?" The girl watched him closely. "It has." He stopped moving. "I'm still me." For now, the words hit harder than he expected. The wind picked up again, swirling dust along the ground. It carried a faint sound with it this time, something low and uneven. The rancher turned his head, trying to place it. It sounded like voices, not clear words. Just a murmur, like people speaking from far off, layered over each other in a way that made no sense. "You hear that?" he asked. The girl nodded once. "They hear you too," she said. A tightness gripped his chest again. "This ain't real." "It is." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration breaking through the unease. "Then tell me what to do." "If you've seen this before, you know something I don't." For the first time, her calm expression shifted. Not fear, but something close to it. Concern. "It's not about what you do," she said. "It's about what you already did." He stared at her, trying to make sense of it. "Riding through a stretch of land ain't enough to trap a man." "You didn't just ride through," she said. "You crossed at the wrong moment." "What moment?" She hesitated, then looked toward the river again. "When the line moves." The rancher followed her gaze, his heart beating a little faster now. The water had begun to change again, the current bending in that unnatural way. The shape in the reflection stood clearer than before, and this time it was not alone. Another outline flickered beside it, faint but unmistakable. The murmuring sound grew just a little louder. The rancher took a slow step back, his mind racing. "If they're in there," he said, "then they were real men once. Yes. Then there has to be a way to pull them out." The girl's eyes met his again, and this time there was no calm in them at all. "No one comes out," she said. The river gave a sudden, sharp pull again, stronger than before. The rancher felt it under his boots, the ground itself seeming to shift just slightly toward the water. And for a brief second he had the clear, terrible feeling that something on the other side had started reaching back. The pull came again, stronger this time, like the river had found a grip on the land itself. The rancher staggered half a step, boots grinding into the dirt as he fought to hold his ground. His horse jerked back hard, reins snapping tight in his hand, the animal's fear plain and rising. "Step away from it," the girl said, her voice sharper now. "I'm trying," he shot back, though his feet felt heavier than they should have, like the earth beneath him had turned soft and slow. The river no longer looked like a simple stream. The surface twisted in uneven waves, bending light in a way that made the far bank look distant and near at the same time. The shapes in the reflection grew clearer. Not just shadows now, figures, standing close together, facing him, waiting. The rancher dragged his foot back another inch. The pull eased for a second, then returned, tugging at him like a steady hand. "Why does it want me?" he demanded. The girl stepped closer along her side of the bank, keeping a careful distance from the water. "It doesn't want you," she said. "It holds what crosses." "That's the same thing," he said. "No," she replied. "Wanting is a choice. This isn't." The wind whipped harder across the open land, carrying that low murmur again. It was louder now, layered voices brushing against his ears. Not clear enough to understand, but close enough to feel. The rancher clenched his jaw. "Those voices," he said. "They're the ones in there." "Yes," he swallowed. "They sound like they're calling." "They are." The words sent a cold line down his spine. "For help?" he asked. The girl hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. "For you," the rancher's grip on the reins tightened until his knuckles went pale. "I ain't going in there." The river shifted again, and this time the pull came with it, sharper, sudden. His boot slid forward before he could stop it, the edge of the water licking against the sole. The moment it touched, the world tilted. The sound of the wind dropped away. The heat of the sun dimmed. For a heartbeat, everything felt far off, like he had stepped into a space between moments. Then he heard it clearly. Voices, not murmurs now, but words, low and urgent, overlapping in a way that made his head spin. "Stay. Come closer." "You already crossed." He yanked his foot back hard, stumbling as he broke contact with the water. The world snapped back into place, the wind rushing in, the sunlight sharp again. His breath came fast now. "They're not just in there," he said, shaken. "They're aware," the girl nodded once. "That's why you have to be careful." "Careful ain't going to fix this," he said. "There's got to be a way to break it." Her eyes searched his face like she was measuring something. "Maybe," that single word caught his attention. "Maybe?" "No one has tried the right way," she said. The rancher took another step back, putting more distance between himself and the river. The pull weakened again, though it did not vanish completely. It stayed there, quiet and patient. "What's the right way?" he asked. She looked down at the ground, then back at him. "You have to leave before it settles." "Settles?" "The line doesn't stay open forever," she said. "It shifts, then it closes. When it closes, whatever is inside stays inside." The rancher felt a small spark of hope push through the tension. "Then I just ride out." "Same way I came in," the girl shook her head. "It's not that simple. It never is with you," he muttered. "You came in at the wrong moment," she said. "The path you took may not be there anymore?" He glanced toward the direction he had ridden from. The land looked the same as always, stretching out in dry hills and scattered brush. "Looks fine to me," he said. "Look closer." He narrowed his eyes, focusing on the trail. At first, nothing seemed out of place, then he noticed it. The faint tracks his horse should have left were gone. The ground looked untouched, smooth in a way it should not be. "That's not right," he said under his breath. "No," she agreed. The wind carried the voices again, louder now, pressing at the edges of his hearing. The river shifted once more, and the figures in the reflection seemed to lean forward, their shapes stretching slightly as if drawn toward him. "They know you're trying to leave?" the girl said. The rancher felt the pull increase again, not just at his feet now, but in his chest, like something was tugging from the inside. "What happens if I don't make it out in time?" he asked, though he already knew. She met his gaze, steady but no longer calm. "You stay." He let out a slow breath, forcing himself to think past the fear. "Then we don't wait," he said. "We move now." The girl did not answer right away. Her eyes flicked to the river, then back to him, then toward the open land. "It's already starting to close," she said. The rancher followed her gaze again. The air above the ground seemed to waver, like heat rising, but thicker, heavier. The horizon looked slightly bent, as if the world itself was shifting out of place. His horse pulled harder at the reins, desperate to move. "Then we ride," he said firmly. The girl hesitated just for a moment, then she nodded. "Stay ahead of me," she said. "And don't look back at the river." He gave a short nod, already moving toward his horse. "And you?" "I'll guide you," she said. The voices surged once more, louder than before, almost clear enough to form words he could understand. The river behind him gave a deep, unnatural sound, like something rising with intent. The rancher swung into the saddle in one quick motion, gripping the reins tight. He could feel the pull still, stronger now, like it knew he was trying to leave. "Now," the girl said. He urged his horse forward, heart pounding, the land ahead of him beginning to blur and shift, as if it were no longer steady ground. And behind him, the river roared louder than it ever had before. The horse surged forward under him, hoof striking the dry ground hard and fast. The rancher leaned low in the saddle, eyes fixed ahead, refusing the pull that pressed at his back like a heavy hand. The land did not feel steady anymore. It shifted in small, unsettling ways, like the path itself was unsure where it belonged. "Keep going," the girl called from behind him. Her voice carried clear despite the rising wind. "Do not slow down," he nodded, though he did not look back. Every part of him wanted to turn, to see what followed, but her warning held firm in his mind. "Do not look back at the river." The sound behind them grew louder, no longer just water. It carried weight now, like a force moving across ground instead of flowing through it. The voices mixed with it, sharper and closer, brushing against his ears with words that tried to pull his thoughts away from the path ahead. "You cannot leave. You belong here." The rancher clenched his jaw and pressed his heels into the horse's sides. "Not today," he muttered. The horse pushed harder, muscles straining, as if it understood more than he did. The air ahead wavered, the horizon bending in that same strange way. For a moment, it looked like the trail simply ended, swallowed by a thin shimmer that cut across the land. "There!" the girl shouted. "That is where you crossed." The rancher narrowed his eyes. The shimmer was faint, like heat rising from the ground, but thicker, heavier. It stretched across the path in a quiet line that did not belong. "The line," he said under his breath. "Do not hesitate," she called. "Ride straight through it." The pull behind him grew stronger, sudden and sharp. His shoulders jerked back slightly, as if something had grabbed hold of him for real this time. The voices rose together, louder than ever, almost desperate, Stay, stay, stay. His hands tightened on the reins. His heart pounded so hard it filled his ears. The shimmer ahead flickered once, as if it might disappear before he reached it. Faster, the girl urged. The rancher gave everything he had to that moment. He leaned forward, urging the horse into one final burst of speed. The ground rushed beneath them, the air pressing against his face. The instant they reached the line, the world twisted. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. No wind. No voices, no sound at all. Then came a sharp, cracking sensation, like stepping through something that did not want to break. The horse stumbled forward, catching itself as they passed through the shimmer. The rancher felt the pull snap away. Just like that. The weight on his chest lifted. The pressure behind him vanished. The air cleared and the land settled back into place. The trail stretched out ahead, solid and familiar, just as it had been before. He pulled the horse to a stop a short distance away, breathing hard, trying to steady himself. For a moment, he just sat there, listening. Nothing. No voices, no strange movement. Only the quiet wind across open land. Slowly, he turned in the saddle. The river was still there, cutting through the landscape like it always had. Calm, ordinary, no twisting water, no shapes in the reflection. Just a simple stream under the sun. The girl rode up beside him, her horse calm now, no sign of the fear from before. "It's over," she said. The rancher looked at her, then back at the river. "Just like that?" she nodded. The line closed. He let out a long breath, the tension finally easing from his shoulders. "Those people in there," he said, "the ones who stayed. They're still there, aren't they?" Her gaze softened slightly. "Yes," he looked down at his hands, still gripping the reins. "Feels wrong leaving them." "It is not something you can fix today," she said gently. "But you remembered." "That matters." He glanced back at the river one more time, then away. "I won't forget." The girl studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "That is why you made it out." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "Some try to fight it," she said. "Some don't believe it until it is too late." You listened. "Even when it did not make sense." The rancher gave a quiet, thoughtful nod. "Guess I had a good guide." A faint smile touched her face, the first sign of warmth he had seen from her. "You chose to follow," she said. The wind moved gently through the land now, calm and steady again. The strange tension was gone, replaced by the wide, open quiet he knew so well. He shifted in the saddle and looked toward the trail ahead. "You staying out here?" he asked. "For a while," she said. "There are always lines like this. They do not stay in one place forever." He considered that, then nodded. "If I ride this way again and see something strange, I'll remember today." "That is enough," she replied. He gave her one last look, then turned his horse toward home. The path was clear now, solid beneath him, each step steady and sure. As he rode, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the land. Everything looked the same as it always had, but he knew better now. Some places held more than they showed, some moments mattered more than they seemed. And sometimes the difference between staying and making it home was as simple as knowing when to listen and when to ride. The river flowed quietly behind him, keeping its secret once more.